My name is Mark Goldblatt. I'm the president of the Funeral Cooperative of Ottawa. We're not in operations at this time, but we are in the startup phase, hoping to start our co-op within the next 6 months. I guess there were various steps that we took to starting up the cooperative, and I'll just run over those steps, about 7 steps. We had to form a core group of interested people. So I was the one first interested in the idea of a funeral cooperative, and I contacted some friends of mine to see if they would be interested in joining with the effort. We also held a public meeting to see if we could identify any people that wanted to volunteer, discussed whether we had a common vision for the cooperative that we would be able to agree on. And certainly there were 2 things that were very much in our minds, that our co-op would not upsell people who are using our services, which is very common in the industry. People come in and ask for something that they don't really need, and they're charged more money than they really need for their services. They're pressed to buy more services that they really don't need. The other thing we felt was important was transparency, that our members would see and understand, exactly how the cooperative operated and how we arrived at pricing our services. So members knew at all times exactly how the co-op was operating. Our second step was to establish whether there was interest in the community. And fairly early on, we started selling memberships in the cooperative, just $20 for a lifetime non-refundable membership. And that was our way of beginning to establish whether there was community interest. We went around also to make some presentations to groups that we thought might be interested in the idea of a funeral co-op. With help from the Quebec Federation of Funeral Co-ops, we did a market study to see essentially what the competition was doing, and to see if there was a room in the marketplace for a funeral cooperative. And we were able to decide that yes, we could, there was enough room for us. I mean, the competition will be very strong. We have 8 private funeral providers in Ottawa, but we definitely thought there was room to start a cooperative. The next step we went on to was a feasibility study. We looked whether or not the cooperative would be viable, and what would be the key issues that we would have to address. So we came out of that process of being able to establish that there was room in the market and the competition was identified. The next steady step for us was the development of a business plan. So a business plan was a plan for the actual operation of the cooperative, not the startup, but the actual operations. So we were identifying where our revenue would come from, what our expenses would be, and developing a business plan based around the essential issues to operate the business. And then after that step, we incorporated the cooperative, as known as the Funeral Cooperative of Ottawa, and we established our basic governance approach to the cooperative, and we developed a set of bylaws for the cooperative's operations to the point where we are now, which is the actual startup of the business. We're looking at things like, are we going to try to buy an existing funeral home? Are we going to try to build our own funeral home? Or are we going to rent facilities in the community? And of course, at that stage of startup, we have to develop our business plan to the point where we feel that we could get financing based on our business plan. So we had to borrow money to start up the business. We had to determine, what we were doing, whether we were buying, building, or renting facilities in the community. And then naturally, the next big step for us, and we're just going to start that, we haven't done that yet, would be to hire a funeral director. Certainly everyone who has given us advice says the most important decision we will ever make in starting our funeral cooperative was to hire the right person to be the funeral director. So that's where we are right now. We're in the startup phase and hoping, it's been a long process. We've been working as a group, for over 2 years, but it's been a very dedicated group of people, a very strong board of directors. We've been meeting as often as 2 weeks over 2 years. And even though we have just on the edge now of starting, I can say for the founding board that we've learned a lot about the funeral co-op sector, funeral co-op business sector. So I think even though it's been a slow process, that the board has increasingly developed its capacity to understand the funeral business, to manage a funeral business, And so I think even though the process has been somewhat long, that is one of the beneficial outcomes of working together as a team, learning as we go, and now we are ready, I think, to manage a funeral co-op business.